Hello, I'm Frances Snyder, and with a group of people, we've come together and work as pan writers under the direction of Bryan Willis. And tonight, you are going to hear a sample of some of the writing products that we have produced in the recent past. Now, much of my writing has revolved around my experiences as a youngster who spent 12 years going to Catholic schools. I never thought it was very much different than the rest of the world until later I found out that many of my experiences were a little bit on the unique side. The whole world didn't wear blue plaid uniforms, didn't have to follow all the rules that we did, but also they missed out on the marvelous experience of having wonderful, wonderful women, nuns who taught us. Now, tonight I'm going to be reading one of the episodes that happened when I was a sophomore. September 1963 was unusually warm as we began the sophomore year at St. Leo's. Early in the month, I went with a group of friends to the Puyallup Fair. Released from school early and armed with our free tickets, we took the bus from downtown Tacoma to Puyallup. Along with other schools, we ate scones and caramel apples, rode the octopus and roller coaster, and maybe flirted a little with some random boys. I remember a sunny day of laughter, going to bed late that night, quite tired. Later that month, we had an even greater day away from school given to us. Word spread that Dr. Mortvedt, the president of Pacific Lutheran University, and Dr. Thompson, the president of the University of Puget Sound, had invited President Kennedy to visit Tacoma while on his trip to the West Coast. The president would drop in for a brief time between stops in Hanford and Redding, California. The excitement when we heard the news was unbelievable. Not only would Tacoma be honored by the presence of our president, but it would be Kennedy. Our country had a vibrant leader who, along with his glamorous wife, brought youth to the White House. The fact that the Kennedy family were also Catholic added to their image in our idealistic, adoring hearts. Of course, we were given the day off. I don't know how there could have been classes anyway. Most of the nuns would be at Cheney Stadium. Wouldn't miss it for the world. The Secret Service arrived a few days ahead to assess the event. Besides grandstand seats, folding chairs were brought in and placed in the infield, along with the Secret Service in plain clothes. 140 Tacoma and Pierce County uniformed officers were present to handle security. Planners expected 12,000 visitors, but as the morning progressed, more than twice that many showed up. The gates opened at 9 a.m., 3 hours ahead of the president's expected arrival. The good nuns of St. Leo's and students were among the first through the gates. We were lucky. We got prime seating, not too far from the president's podium. When the officers saw the group in school uniforms, well represented by women in habits, they escorted us to special seats. The students from public schools did not fare so well. They had not been dismissed from school until later, and they had to sit or stand in the outfield. At 11 o'clock, 5 helicopters carrying the press landed, and excitement in the crowd intensified as everyone realized the president's arrival was imminent. Marching bands from the local high schools entertained the crowd, and folk singer Beth Peterson sang, "He's got the whole world in his hands." The Army band from Fort Lewis performed, "Happy Days Are Here Again." At 11:30, it was announced that the president's plane landed at SeaTac Airport. He immediately boarded a helicopter that whisked him to Cheney Stadium, where he arrived at 11:30. The president entered the stadium by walking through 2 lines of university professors on his way to the speaker's platform, as bands from the Fourth Army played, "Hail to the Chief." After an invocation by Dr. Thompson, Professor Margaret Miles from UPS sang the national anthem. Governor Albert Rossellini introduced Senator Jackson, who then introduced Senator Magnuson, who then introduced the president to a standing ovation. Kennedy spoke for about 10 minutes. The emphasis of his speech was on the importance of citizens to value our environment and its resources. He urged us to make judgments on how we use our parks and resources, not just for this decade, but for the next generation. He also stressed the need for quality education and for those in school to prepare for the burden of leadership over the next 40 years. At the end of his speech, in which he urged us as citizens of the United States to meet its responsibility, Kennedy again received a standing ovation. As he stepped down from the platform, the crowd surged forward and the president spent over 15 minutes shaking hands and slowly making his way to the waiting helicopter. The excitement was palpable as Kennedy continued to smile and take his time to acknowledge, smile and shake hands with an adoring crowd. Since the group of St. Leo's sat a short distance from his podium and he passed a few feet below our seats, it was easy for those in the first few rows to reach out to him as he made his exit. Afterward, my friend Kathy Carson held up her right hand as though it were gold, and Natalie Garrison claimed she would never wash her hand again. We talked about the event of September 27th for days afterward. What an opportunity. We who are going to be taught the importance of character, the necessity of becoming a part of a greater society, and working toward a better future. On a beautiful sunny day in September, Kennedy left Tacoma, a town of less than 150,000, with the memory of his inimitable charm and inspiring words. He left us with the promise to return. It was not to be. 2 months later, it was a typical gloomy November morning, and I was sitting in Sister Jean's third period geometry class. The principal, Miss Sister Marie Andrea, came on the intercom. Her voice was grave as she announced that President Kennedy had been shot while in Dallas. We were invited down to the auditorium for further updates. Once in the auditorium, we clustered around the old black and white television that had been rolled out onto the stage and watched a somber Walter Cronkite deliver the devastating news. Kennedy did not survive the attack. We saw grainy footage of the day's event, heard the sorrow and disbelief in Cronkite's voice, and felt the horror and grief of losing our president. He wasn't just any president, he was somebody we knew, someone we could inspire us, someone who we wanted to lead us, and now he was gone. Many of us cried, unable to control the tears streaming down our faces. Kennedy's assassination was all we talked about for the rest of the day and for many days afterward. We were in shock. In fact, the entire nation was in shock. I remember being glued to the television and watching Lyndon B. Johnson being sworn in as president aboard Air Force One. Jackie standing by, still wearing a blood-stained pink suit. I saw Lee Harvey Oswald escorted to jail in handcuffs, later learning he too had been shot by Jack Ruby. Then the funeral. A parade along Pennsylvania Avenue of world dignitaries. The tall Charles de Gaulle next to the diminutive Haile Selassie. The never-to-be-forgotten image of John saluting his father as his casket passed by. I know all the girls in my class were devastated by Kennedy's assassination and can still feel the horror of November 22nd, 1963, as clearly as if it happened yesterday. But I also know that Kennedy's presence in lives, both through his visit to Tacoma and his death, has been a part of forming our character. It's another piece of the mosaic, making us who we are, who we were, and what we became. Thank you.
I'm Burl Rogers, and I have a story to tell you about what happens to a single man when he has no advice for clothing. May I go ahead? Okay. The time came to buy some new boxer shorts. I had gone through my drawer of underwear and threw out 5 threadbare, faded, ratty ones, all plaid woven cloth. Like your mother, Mine had told me never to wear worn out or soiled underwear, for I would be embarrassed if caught in an accident. Those old garments would never have stood Mother's inspection. I went to Target store and looked at the display of underwear. What's this? I was way beyond the times. I found Hanes brand, a package of soft knit briefs for $13.99. No, not those. Tightsy, whitesy. I found micro-thermal long johns, one pair for $9.99. Wrong style. I found Fruit of the Loom, 5-pack gray knit briefs, $16.99. Wrong kind. I found Hanes premium stretch knit briefs, 5-pack gray and black, $19.99. Even worse. At the back of the display rack, I finally found a pair of a 4-pack of Hanes woven plaid blue and red boxers like the ones I had thrown out. $20.99. The material was a desirable mix of cotton and polyester. The size was right, extra large. For many years, I relied on the women in my life for advice on clothing. Now my daughter Nancy is the survivor, but she lives 75 miles away. She visits me, but I need advice today. The choice was up to me alone. Should I change the type of weave to a knit, or should I pay more for woven cloth? Was plaid the only choice in woven cloth? For years while growing up, I wore knit white cotton briefs, but when I joined the Navy, I was issued white boxer shorts of woven broadcloth called skivvies. The government issue gave a loose fit. I liked them better. World War II ended, so I was only in the Navy for 1 year. Then my GI skivvies wore out, and I have bought boxer style ever since. At the Target store, I looked around for an advisor and settled on a young woman nearby. She had a tattoo. I spoke, holding out the pack of plaid boxers at $20.99, along with the Hanes Premium Knit Stretch Briefs, 5-pack, gray and black, at $19.99. Please, miss, I'd like some advice. I like the broadcloth better than the knit fabric, but it costs more. Please help me decide which is better. Buster, I don't know and I don't care. With that response, I thought, there is an example of true ignorance and apathy. Don't know, don't care. Then I made up my own decision. I went to the checkout and bought 2 4-packs of the plaid shorts. Now I am secure in knowing that my underwear, no longer ratty, will withstand inspection by any mother if I should be injured in an accident. Ruth Shearer, a lady I admire who came near death in an auto accident a few years ago, added a comment. Sometimes good underwear makes no difference. Nurses have scissors and they just cut off all your clothing. Who is next?
Oh, I am.
Okay.
My name is Linda Wallen, and I'm a member of Brian's class, too, for many years. He's a good teacher. I'm armed with an iPad instead of nice paper, and my only comfort is that if the lights go out, then I can still read my writing. So I'll try and find it here. It's called Olga's Jokes. Olga had a few jokes, mostly of the Nordic kind, since she was Norwegian. And it seems only fair that you can tell jokes about your heritage, although anybody who tells you jokes about your heritage better be careful. She casually told them, not with a great fanfare, but only after she had tested herself on the availability of the receiver to receive this kind of a story. They were unisex, often involving married women and their husbands, or women of a small community who understood understood one another completely, and often in real life the recipient of the joke had just enjoyed a delicious meal cooked by the comedian. She had a great delivery with just the right placement of expressions, which still lingered in her home community of Norwegians up on the hill. The denizens of the hill had, of course, grown modern now, but in all their minds still existed the same wording, the same swing that came with them on the boat. The first joke is called The Vacker Apartments. Pete and Ole had come over on the boat years ago and had not seen each other for some time, so Ole was amazed one day to see Pete shopping in downtown Tacoma. "Oh, Pete, it's so good to see you," Ole told him. "Are you just visiting here?" "Oh, no, Ole," said Pete. "I have been living here for many years. I have a job as a janitor up at the Vacker Apartments. It pays good, but what is best is the fringe benefits." "The fringe benefits, Pete? What would that be?" said Ole. "Oh, yeah, Ole, I got it good. You see, I have had an affair with every woman in the Vacker Apartments except one." Well, Ole did not tell Pete that the Vacker Apartments was where he and Lena lived, and he rushed right home. "You know, Lena, I saw Pete downtown today, and he tells me he has been the janitor here at the Vacker Apartments for years." "Yeah," she said. "Oh, yeah, I know Pete." "Well, Lena, he told me he had had an affair with every woman in the Vacker Apartments except one. Tell me, Lena, do you know who that one woman would be?" "Oh, yeah, that must be that snooty Mrs. Jensen up on the third floor." And the second joke is the funeral. The two neighbors were attending the funeral of a woman they had known for many years. The woman had lived a good life, but she kept on losing husbands. She had been married first to Ole, and she had borne him 5 children. But when he died, she had married Yanni, and she had borne him 6 children. But when he died, she had married Hans, and she had borne him 4 children. He had died also, and at last she had met her demise. The two women paraded by the coffin and looked at her. "Well," one had remarked, "at least they're together again." The other one asked, "You mean she and Ole? Or she and Yanni? Or she and Hans?" "No," said the other one, "her legs."
Good evening. My name is Bronwyn Vincent, and I'm also a student of Bryan Willis in Handwriters. The mic is, oh, that one? Okay. And I'm delighted to be here to read some of my poetry to you. Imaginary Marriage. At 37, 2 sons later, the phantom won. My dream, the nightmare of its death. I write the obituary of an imaginary marriage. Living in limbo. I wander in a domestic DMZ, surrounded by the debris of a marriage. Foxholed, we hurled grenades at each other, wounds to the heart beyond surgery. Nothing left to salvage except our children, caught in the crossfire. Molting. I shed my marriage in layers, like winter clothes. Moving toward spring, I become whole. the transparent heart. My heart is like a stone. Tears wash over it, wearing it smooth, until at last it is transparent. Welcome home. Better than memories or fantasies, your lips form to my mouth, drawing out my breath as I melt into the wanting of you, as I melt into the wanting of you. Spider Woman. Spider Woman, you sit in your web, a succulent morsel I offer up. Wrap him snug, sing a siren's lullaby, give him your body, sink in your fangs. Ariadne, sister in crime. Survivor. I made a life raft from my skin and bone, tracks on my face, gray in my hair. I call myself a survivor. Coming home. Explore the edge like a mouse nibbling cheese. Going too far. Hurtling through inner space, mind scrambled. Going too far. Chest cracked open, heart jerked out. Going too far. Orbit the moon, land on the dark side. Coming home. Mirror. I step into the looking glass. Nothing prepares me for the soft landing on the dark of the moon. Your kisses consume me. Moving through the night, we mirror each other in the dance of love. And my last poem is for Michael Aschenbrenner, and he was a glass artist, is a glass artist, who taught me how to blow glass at the Pilchuck School for Glass in the summer of 1985. And he was a Vietnam War veteran, a paratrooper, who in a parachute jump over Cambodia, he shattered his leg and spent a year in the VA hospital in San Francisco, where his leg healed, and then he became an artist working in glass and created glass bones that he then put together with bandage and wire. You showed me how to take the heat until I learned to face my fears. You showed me how to transcend pain until I learned to trust myself. You showed me how to heal my heart with the broken bones you mend. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Patty Kinney. I'm a poet from Olympia, Washington, and I've been in the Pan Writers group under the surveillance of Bryan Willis for a few years now, and they're my everything. Hello? Okay, I'm gonna have some fun here first, just so I warm up. Okay. Good evening, Red Lion guests. For those of you in the bar, for those of you drinking excessively in the lounge, could you please keep it down as we poets are doing our jobs? Thank you. I have to just bring some real life into this because it affects me today. I'm kind of the wild child of the Pan Writers group, and it's kind of nice because I'm kind of like the youngest too, and I'm 59. I also suffer from mental illness. I wouldn't say suffer, but I live with it. And I actually, sometimes you have to go in and get your meds tweaked. And I've actually just been out of the psych ward about a little over 24 hours. So I'm just going to keep it real. I ran into a woman when I was changing out of my sweaty clothes that I had worn in the hospital this afternoon, because that's just how my day went. And she looked at me and she was very flustered and she said, "I just got out of jail." And I said, "I just got out of the psych ward." And then she looked at me and she goes, well, I said, "What's your diagnosis?" And she said, "Bipolar." And I said, "Mine too. I just got a new diagnosis." And we were really happy in there, washing our hands and all. And then she said, I said, "I'm gonna go. Come." I said, "Come out to the hotel lobby." I said, "I'm gonna be reading." I said, "It's Depression Awareness Month in October." I said, "Mental Health Awareness Month isn't until May, but you know." Anyway, she then told me that what she meant to say was she just got out of the jail because she's a public defender. She wasn't in jail, but she still has bipolar. And I told her, she said she really can't say much with her clients and, in her job situation. But I told her I have a voice and I'm going to use it. I don't care if I've just been out of the, whatever you want to call it, loony bin for 24 hours. I'm here, and there's so many people in there that don't have a voice that I'm theirs. Sorry. Oh, my hair. I just grew it out. I'm not going to cut it. They said my hair is hitting the mic. Gumdrops. Cezanne painted until his eyes bled. I am waiting for my mother's house to die, for myths to be birthed. If images consist of memory, I have lived twice inside these walls. The doormat is dirty. Shoes stay put. A butter knife naps in the sink. The barometer on the living room wall is tapped to adjust the wind. Candles are for storms or fish on Fridays. Holy water holders have dry mouths. The snake plant, also called mother's tongue, grows for 67 years in the same yellow pot. Shoelaces from the 99-cent store downtown, used birthday candles, and dirty pot holders cause the junk drawer to stick. Furniture rests in the same spot since 1946. A cracked wedding lamp is for looks, not light. I am aware of myself in this space where photos were taken. My father sits in his chair smoking. He died last night watching the Duke fight off the bad guys. Candy in hand, dog in lap. If I shut my eyes, the words in my pocket will rot. When I say this is that, the room ignites. And I loved the first story about JFK because I'm Irish Catholic, Patty Finnegan Kinney, Patricia Jo Maureen Finnegan Kinney. So, and any reference to JFK is, I love it because I know my Grandma Finnegan's looking down. Here are 5. I thought I better throw in something sweet. And these are for my BFF, who, I'll tell you, love is good salve because I have a best friend who loves me. And anyway, 5 Tonka. And Tonka, you can Google it. It's a poetry form. It has 5 lines. I think they go 5, 7, 5, 7, 7. I'm looking at my notes. I wrote, these were written, I studied with Jane Hirschfield. Feet tangled in silk, hair sun hot with wild red poppy. I recall twilight when pink stars made love so close, your damp, shy neck smelled of yes. Even as she cries, the dry riverbed conjures huckleberries ripe from their shared hungry garden, grace wrapped in flat rock and time. Happy feet are bare, yet the throbbing moon wears shoes. If no pebble strikes this lonely, cracked window pane, who will climb your parched mountain? My gypsy heart beats turquoise, stolen apricot. Push tall grass aside. I pick my poison and drink. Subtle, subtle bliss, your face. Damn the clouds and damn this judgment of the dark sky. How will moon shine on? Drunk plums dropped from crooked tree, your smashed footprint leaving me. And Tonka, they were court poems, Japanese, very, very old style to Tonka. And what would happen is, there goes my hair. Men would come and visit their ladies at night in the court, and then the next morning, the woman would write these notes off to the men after the men had been there to visit them. So it is a very romantic form of poetry. My next poem is for my son Drew. I'm a mom of 6 sons, ages 37 down to 17. And I have a new grandson that's 6 months old, Carver, named after Raymond Carver. And this is for my son Drew. He's the middle one, he's 33. And he's not schizophrenic. That word is in the title. He's actually bipolar like me, so it's all in the family. And as with any of my poems, you can laugh, you can cry. You might be crying when somebody else is laughing or, whatever. I'm glad the drunks are keeping it down in there. How to talk to your schizophrenic child. Would you like to swing on a star? Carry moonbeams home in a jar? We're lives. Point to the Big Dipper. Ask them which star they are. Explain therapists cannot function without their expertise, wisdom. Repeat the term ordinary genius, sewing it into eyelids. Agree it's okay to Google your silhouette. Shoplift a shovel, duct tape thrift store shoes you use to walk on water. Of course you are Jesus, heart on fire, lit by the tip of a match. And those traffic cameras are watching, making movies, renaming you through every intersection, sending Cliff's Notes to the CIA. So, fly your flag, that middle finger, at those aliens who abducted you last night. But next time they come, tell them to rinse the chili from the pan. Intervention is just a jigsaw dismantled before we find the last piece. In reality, you're a wives' tale in high def, freight train waiting to be jumped, carrying toxic waste, nerve gas, the sting of an salt in a new tattoo of you and you and you. Yeah, I love my son, but that was after he stole my car and left it up on Snoqualmie Pass, and we thought he was off in the wilderness becoming Mount Si. Anyway, it's a long story, but if anybody's mentally ill, they'll understand that. Okay. I wanted to mention a couple of the other, the pan writers, we're the best writers in Olympia, Washington, and probably the whole Pacific Northwest, thanks to Bryan Willis, our dear leader. We are. That's just how it is. I think that Burl needs to check out boxer briefs. Yeah. Nice fit. We could talk about later. Okay. Saw your paintings at Goodwill, Laura Reeves. I assume you are dead. Your seascapes, those wrens on a sill. Blue vase with iris lay plopped 50% off in metal bin on Dearborn. I wanted to buy the floral, but where would I hang you, Laura Reeves? My home is proof of an affliction called search for yourself through the dead. Last night, you sat at my vanity, ran a pink comb through thin white hair. Mary P. Indecipherable, whose work also came home with us, is on display above the chalkware infant of Prague. The painting, a young mother soothing her infant in a room without art. Okay, and this is my last one. If you haven't guessed yet, I had a really crappy childhood. Not all the time, but I had a pretty not very nice adoptive mom. And this is for her. And thanks, everybody. Lynn told her Norwegian joke about the Vaker apartments at the writing group this afternoon. And she channels her mother, Olga, from the old country. We always love that. Bronwyn is the sweetest person in the whole entire world, the whole entire universe. She kind of keeps us balanced, and I hope I didn't leave anyone out who read. Anyway, I just kind of wanted to give you guys a shout out, and I am so honored to be in your company of writers. I really am. Broke snow globe. I tell my mother that the people in the snow globe are not glued down, but she says, just shake the damn thing. And when I do, liquid leaks from the seam where clear plastic meets fake sky. If you turn my childhood upside down, bones rattle and ghosts bop. The cedar chest in my bedroom opens. It is a casket containing maternal great-grandfather Luther Smith. My mother despised him, something about sitting in a lap. An altar is built upon this piece of furniture. St. Joseph, formed of plaster, holds baby Jesus in his porous arms. The nose has been knocked off this father figure. Perhaps he liked to box. That was before he met her. Mom is Joan Crawford's closet with a side of Ted Bundy. True. She pets gossip like a cat and will scratch behind your ears as she eats you. Her false teeth fly past my face. They land in the goldfish bowl. Dad slithers into his lazy boy. Both the TV set and Red Skelton are cattywampus and smoking. We named the fish Goldie Yaconetti after our Italian neighbor in Lacey, who Mom hates. Mom yelled, "Of course you broke it." Dad added, "All plastic is crap." The fish, she never learned to like the cold. The fish, she never learned to like the cold and stood at the stove burning marinara until the next summer. I was the only one to survive. I was the only one with glue. Thank you guys for coming out. They didn't tell me to say anything to wrap things up, so. You can find me on Instagram. I'm Moth Kid. Patty Kinney, poet. And pan writers under the direction of our fearless leader, Bryan Willis.